Good Shabbos, everyone. So it's rare when Halloween falls on a Friday. And it reminds me, years ago, my three kids were young. They were in preschool at the time. And for many, many years, when I was the assistant rabbi, I led a Friday night family service called Shabbat. Some of you would come, your kids or grandkids. In that particular year, when my kids were young, Halloween was on a Friday. So I remember I was a young rabbi, and I went to Rabbi Rosen with the dilemma, should I cancel Shabbat Yachad with the realism that most kids are going to be out trick-or-treating, or should I be determined and have Shabbat Yachad, announce it, tell people they should come, and then afterwards they could go trick-or-treating. So Rabbi Rosen said, do what you want to do. I understand either way. You can cancel it if you want or go forward. So I was the young rabbi. I was determined I was going to get hundreds of kids to come. So Lisa thought I was a little nuts, my wife. But I remember I told my kids, and I promised them afterwards they could go, and don't worry, they're going to see all their friends at services. So we walked into the room, and there was my three kids and me. And that was it. So I'm glad all of you are here tonight. And I know Halloween is a lot of fun. And honestly, I have no problem with our kids dressing up, walking the neighborhood, enjoying the night. In our day and age, when so many of our young people, something that we talk about a lot, spend so much time indoors, on their phones or iPads, meeting neighbors, building community, getting outside, it's a good thing. Even though Halloween, of course, is not a Jewish holiday. It grew out of pagan harvest traditions. But the themes behind it, life and death, spirits, occurrences we can't always explain, they actually do show up in our Jewish tradition. So tonight gives me an opportunity to address a topic you don't often hear in synagogue. What does our tradition say about ghosts, goblins, and demons? Does Judaism have something to say? Now, if you think ghost stories only belong to Halloween, think again. In actuality, our rabbinic texts are full of tales about spirits that linger in cemeteries and actually appear to the living. The Torah prohibits seeking guidance from mediums and others who claim that they can communicate with the dead. That's not okay. Instead, we should rely on God for wisdom and direction. Yet, centuries later in our Talmud, there are actual stories that still made it into the Talmud where our rabbis had moments when they actually did want to peek behind the curtain of life and death. Our rabbinic texts tell us that some rabbis used to spend the night in cemeteries, not because they were lost and had nowhere to go, but because they hoped to learn spiritual secrets and divine messages about the future. And they thought the best way to do so was to sleep in the cemetery so they could overhear the spirits. In one famous story, one rabbi visits the graves of the dead to test whether the souls are aware of what happens among the living and concludes that they are. In another story, scholars sleep in a cemetery to overhear the spirits discuss when it's best to plant the annual crops. And based on this insider info, the rabbis then go tell the farmers when to plant. One question I'm often asked, Rabbi, I'm pregnant. Is it okay to go to the cemetery? This idea actually comes from an idea that we shouldn't tempt the spirits in the cemetery. In other words, we're also commanded not to talk about good things in the cemeteries, not to eat, not to put on tefillin. Not that you would do some of those things in the cemetery, but the idea is don't live life fully in the cemetery. Don't show that you're pregnant. Don't do these other things because we don't want the spirits to be jealous that they no longer get to do these things that you and I can do in life. That's where these ideas come from, that there are spirits there, that the spirit survives, and some may even be roaming around the cemeteries. Now, of course, the most famous Jewish ghost, if you will, is the Dybbuk. You've heard of that before. The restless soul that clings to the living. The word Dybbuk comes from the Hebrew davek, to cling. And according to our mystical tradition, Kabbalistic thought, a Dybbuk is a soul that cannot move on because of some unresolved sin, an unresolved trauma. It seeks a host, usually an innocent person, until a rabbi or a Jewish mystic can help release that clinging soul, that lost soul, through ritual and prayer. The idea actually flourished in Eastern Europe, where communities struggling with suffering and injustice beyond what we could even imagine. Their dead yearned for the same repair and peace that their communities were often trying to deal with as well. Did the Dybbuk actually exist? Or was this a community playing out their struggles in a time of great suffering for the Jewish people? Now, of course, the most famous telling is the play The Dybbuk, later made into several films, including the haunting 1937 Yiddish classic and a more modern horror film, The Possession. And countless stories are as scary as the Jewish tradition gets. But even this story really isn't about fear. The story of the Dybbuk is really about unfinished business, forgiveness, and the power of community to bring healing to broken souls in this world and maybe even in the next. Now, Judaism also has its own version of goblins and demons. They're actually called shadim. They appear throughout the Talmud also, which describe them as half human, half spirit. In the Jewish demons, they eat and drink just like us. They reproduce, and yet they're invisible. Some are mischievous, others malicious. But most of these shadim, these Jewish demons, are just part of the unseen spiritual world created alongside humanity. One famous story in the Talmud says that if our eyes could truly see, the air around us would be full of these shadim. The sages even joke that a person who feels a sudden chill in the house of study in the Beit Midrash may have just brushed past a Jewish demon. Now, these demons may not be on the streets of Bel Air. They may be here right now. We just cannot see them. Another text actually advises that if you want to see them, scatter fine ashes around your bed at night and look for footprints in the morning. I wanted to try it, but Lisa wouldn't let me. But if you do, let me know if it works. So my friends, yes, Judaism actually has its share of ghost stories, wandering souls, invisible spirits, souls that are so broken that they cling to innocent lives in this world. But here's the actuality behind it. Because behind these stories always lies a deeper truth. Our tradition isn't about fearing ghosts. It's about revering God. Ultimately, it's God who is in control. Yes, love God. We said the V'ahavta tonight. But reverence is also part of our divine relationship. Kind of like a child to a parent. A healthy relationship of a child to a parent is one that involves both love and awe. Love and respect. And of course, when we're young, fear is part of that relationship. And while Halloween around us tonight as Americans turns fear into fun, Judaism often transforms fear into faith. Not faith in the spirits, not looking for spirits to prophesize the future and tell us what to expect, but faith in God. And only through God can we find hope. And only through God can we live in this world. And in addition, while the world outside right now is filled with ghosts, we'll see them when we go home. It's a holiday of fun. In the Jewish tradition, we honor the dead not by hiding from them, but by remembering those who we have lost, visiting their graves, telling their stories, saying Mourner's Kaddish, and doing good deeds in the memory of all those who we have lost. And most importantly, we Jews have always battled the darkness that Halloween in a fun way, represents. Not with costumes or potions, but with mitzvot and acts of loving kindness. By doing so, we dispel darkness as ways Jews always have, by illuminating our world with light. The Jewish version of Halloween is something all of us can do. The beautiful idea that has carried our people for generations. We bring light into the world, each and every one of us, through our own actions. That we have divine light in us, all of us. And when we do a mitzvah, when we do an act of loving kindness, we bring our own beautiful light into the world to dispel the darkness that others do bring into the world. Each of us brings that unique light into the world through our actions. That's the best way to celebrate Halloween or any day of the week. Shabbat shalom, everyone.